Welcome to Rising Above It. I'm your host, Nancy Siegel. Today's topic is triumph over torture, and we have a return guest, Mohammad Mohabbat, who has been here before to share his experience with overcoming adversity and how he became a political refugee, as well as an author, photographer, musician, and also a leader of the Central Coast Islamic Center of Santa Maria. Welcome, Mohammad.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate you calling me back, and I thank you for the wonderful job you're doing for the community and to inform people in the public. I honor you. I appreciate you. It's my honor to be here with you.
Thank you. Tell us a little about your background.
Well, I'm originally from Afghanistan, where all this turmoil is there right now, and I was born there. And then as I grew up a little bit in 1963, when I was barely 16, I was chosen by my government to come here to the United States as an exchange student and lived with a family for a year, went to school here where I had no knowledge of English or what America was like. And eventually I learned English. I fell in love with this country. And I went back home and educated my people about America, how wonderful place this is. So it's just brief, and then it went on from there, and you can read that in my book.
And you've written a book, My Name is Mohammad.
Yes.
And you can, this is an excellent story of your life, and it's a page turner. It's you made me laugh and you made me cry, and
thank you.
It was very interesting to get a feel for what Afghanistan was like back in the 60s, as well as before the communists came in, and then afterwards what you had to endure to escape. And then rebuilding your life here in the United States. So what inspired you to write the book?
Well, like I said, I have a very unique and different story. It is more like a movie or a fiction than reality. And wherever I was talking and speaking and discussing this with people, everybody said, this is very powerful, this is amazing, you should write a book about this. This is going to be a bestseller, it's awesome. And also I wanted to educate the public, I want to share my story, I wanted to inspire especially our young generation about the values of freedom, about the values of education, and how to live together in peace. I am a bridge builder, not a wall builder, so I want to bring the people of the world closer together to live in peace and humanity and appreciate each other.
Okay. And what was your first introduction to the U.S.?
When, like I said, I was barely 16, and I came to America as an exchange student. I had no clue what America was like, because at that time the world was not so small like it is now. There was no internet, there was no satellite, there was nothing, there was no instant news and things like that. So I had no idea what I was going to see here and what kind of things I will endure. I was completely alien over here, and I was blown away by all the civilization and things that were here, all the amenities that people had here, and the way the family that I lived with, who was really a hardcore Christians, and white family, and I was really devoted Muslim myself from the other side of the world. How beautifully we bonded together, how peacefully we lived together, how I became a member of the family, and how they really became like my natural parents to me. That was amazing.
So you learned about the Christian religion, and they learned about your Muslim religion. So, and you cohabitated just fine.
I was there for a whole year. It was not only the family that I lived with, but also my school, my teachers, the students. They accepted me, they loved me. Everybody pitched in to help me to feel comfortable there. The whole community. I was the only foreigner in that town at that time. So Eventually, I became a celebrity. I was in the newspapers. I was on local TV stations. I was being interviewed. Once I learned English, I became a typical American teenager and having fun and dancing to Beatles songs and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So, what was your perception before you came to the U.S.? What was it like, and how did it change afterwards?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nancy. Before I came to America, like I said, I had not seen much of or heard about America. I thought America, I had seen maybe a movie or two about the Western movies that they were making at that time. I thought America was mostly like cowboys and Indians and shooting each other and everybody drinking and this and that. But when I came here, it was completely different, you know, very civilized, beautiful people, peace-loving people, and really it tells about how we actually, in our own mind, develop or create a picture of a country or a religion or people or race, and then we find out how wrong we were when we really meet them in person, visit them, and talk to them. All that ignorance goes away, and that's why I'm speaking and giving speaking engagements.
Okay. Where did you live in the U.S. when you came here?
I lived actually in heartland of America, in the Bible Belt in middle of Kansas, called Great Bend. It was a small town there, and that was where I got introduced to America and lived there and went to high school and graduated from high school there.
So during your stay, what did you learn, and how has it affected your future in relation to overcoming adversity?
What I learned was, like, you know, no matter how we look like, who we are, you know, what gender, what race, what culture, what thing, once we peel these little shells, in the core, there always is beautiful humanity. We're all human. And we can get along together. We can love each other. We created such a beautiful bond that when I was leaving at the end of my school year, the family and my friends, they were hugging me and crying and bawling. I was doing the same thing. I had a bittersweet time just going back home because I was leaving my heart here. I was excited to go back to my people, to my own family, but part of my heart was here with these people, with this family, and it was really a
which you came to in the future after you had been through a lot of ordeals, eventually coming back to the U.S. and they helped you again. The community
Correct.
came out and supported you. We'll get into that a little bit further. What kind of impact did it have on you?
What happened was actually
during your visit?
Yeah, when I came here and then I went back home, and at that time, very, very, very few people had been to America from my country. I mean, we didn't even know anybody who had been here. So when I went back home, I was, you know, being interviewed by different communities and people and everything to tell them about America, to educate them. That was the whole reason, the purpose that I came here, to educate my American people about Afghanistan, and when I went back there to tell them what was going on over here. And I fell in love with America, and I spoke up in favor of America. And when we were going to school and university, you know, the Russians, at that time Soviet Union, they were trying to convert our youngsters into communists to just make Afghanistan part of their union. And they were blaming America for all the trouble in the world, and they were thinking, you know, America was bloodsucker, imperialist, they want to take over the world, and they said, we were your friends, we'll do this, we'll help you, and that. In which I knew they were lying, and I had been in America. I had seen what a peaceful, wonderful country this is. So I spoke up. I would take the podium. I will give speeches and tell them that do not listen to these people. I have been in America. I have lived there for a whole year. I lived inside a family there, not even as a tourist or a visitor. These people are just loving, peaceful, wonderful, these Christians. And I went to church every weekend with them. I know how they worship. I know what they believe. I know how they are. You know, they accepted me beautifully. They're not after us. It's the communists that they want to take over here. And they would believe what I said because I had been here and I was speaking from.
It.
And that's when the Russians came over and took over the country, and they knew who to go after and who to.
And you were targeted.
I was targeted because I was anti-communist and I was pro-American, and I went through hell, through all the tortures and all the beatings and everything I was taking for like American spy. But I never gave up. I said, no matter if you kill me, if you do anything to me, I cannot say bad things about America. I don't know about politics and government, stuff like that. I'm speaking about my own experience with the American public.
So when you were captured and you were, in the book you describe what it was like to be tortured and to what you went through and to watch some people that you knew be executed right in front of your eyes. What did that feel like?
It's hard to describe that with words, Nancy. It's very, very difficult. But then, you know, after so much that you go through, you eventually get yourself prepared psychologically for execution, because I was supposed to be executed too. At that time, I was wondering, you know, how would it feel when I'm dying? What is the death experience? There was no thing about survival, but you know, when I die, you know, I see people die, you know, all this going through, is it going to be painful? Is it going to be hard? When you start breathing, you're gasping for air, you're doing this and you're doing. Then eventually I calmed down. I said, that's it. I spoke up. I stood up for America. I stood up for Christians. I stood up for white people. I knew what I was doing. This was my duty as a Muslim, to speak the truth, to stand up, and I did it, and I'm proud to be giving my life because this is my duty. So after that, I was not afraid of death.
Okay. And do you have any regrets not being, like going through that and not being an American and still sticking up and having to go through that experience and all the other experiences that followed because of what had transpired?
And Nancy, that's a very profound and good question. To be honest with you, no, I do not have regrets. I would do it all over again because that's my nature. That is my duty as a Muslim, as an Afghan, to stand up for truth, for facts. I could not ignore that because when the communists were insulting Americans, I felt like they were attacking my people, my host family, and my family, and there was nobody else to defend America. You're right, I was not American citizen. I was not a Christian. I was not white. I had nothing in common on surface with America at that time. I did not have to do that.
But you had the experience of being here and living here.
But then when you go deeper into that, I have that strong bond with America at that time, and now still I'm doing this. Even when I'm doing all these speaking engagements after the 9/11, I get a lot of hate and threats and everything from people who are not aware about Muslims and Islam and the other side of the world. And it may cost me, but this is my duty now again to stand up what's right and what's truth about the other side.
Okay. So what do you think of the current events that are happening throughout the world right now?
Yeah, that's a very sad thing. It breaks my heart. I'm really, really saddened, and I believe it comes from ignorance. I believe that ignorance is the mother of all evil. We have some ignorant people in our community here, and we have some ignorant and evil people on the other side. One ignorance gets up, does something so trashy, so unhealthy thing, and call it freedom of expression or whatever, knowing the consequences. What is it going to happen? And then the other side, who is waiting for something like that, that's Al-Qaeda, the terrorists, or the bad people. They are looking for a reason to incite violence. It's not the common people. It's not the Muslims. It has nothing to do with that.
How many Muslims are there in the world right now?
They're approaching 2 billion people.
Okay.
They're 1.8 billion, and
how big is Al-Qaeda?
Al-Qaeda you can count with your fingers.
Right.
That's not because they're Muslims. It's not because, we have criminals here in our community too.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean because if they're Christian and they do something evil, that means that Christianity is bad. And we should look down upon 2 billion Christians either.
Right, I agree.
And that's where we need to separate the culprit from the rest of the wonderful people that we have around the world.
Okay, so what is the misconception between the Western world that the Western world has about the East and especially
right.
the Muslims?
Yeah. What I want to tell our people over here that Islam was not born on 9/11. Islam is not a cult. Islam has been there for 1,400 years, living in peace and beauty with all the people around the world. These few culprits that did whatever they did 9/11, they did not do it because they were Muslim, and did not do it because over here people were Christian. If they targeted Christians and Christianity or just white people or whatever race, they could have gone and hit some other Christian countries that are weaker. They're not really the superpower. They could have gone and killed the Pope. They could have gone, and even here when they came, why did they attack Pentagon rather than a big church? It's not because of Christianity or whatever. It was an evil thing. It was more political. It was something completely separate. And that's why we just tie the culprits to the religion, which has nothing to do with that, and people think that Islam is a violent religion. They need to sit down. They need to talk to a Muslim. They need to go and visit an Islamic society. They are in every town in America. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world and in the United States. People are converting to Islam on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And I am a witness of that myself. So we need to reach out and ask people, is this true about you Muslims? Why do you guys do this? I've heard this, rather than just blindly accepting whatever we hear from the media or another person who is not a Muslim themselves. What authority do they have to talk about Islam when they are not Muslim themselves? I've been living in this country for half a century off and on. Now I've been to churches for hundreds of times. Yet I'm not the authority to talk about Christianity. Because I'm not a Christian, I don't practice it, so how come somebody who has never been to an Islamic country, have not visited a Muslim family, they have not friended a Muslim person, they have not visited an Islamic center, all of a sudden the media or the people or the talk shows, they become expert on Islam and terrorism and this, and that's the misconception that I'm saying.
Okay, and vice versa, the misconception that the Eastern world and the Muslims have about Christianity and the West.
Exactly. Like I said, both sides, a lot of them are ignorant about the other side. They have misconception that the whole Americans are like this. Everything that we have over here in our media is approved and funded by the government. What happens is that over here we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of religion, all these freedoms that we have. We have freedom to own our own TV stations and media and this, and the government even doesn't have an official media as far as I know, that. But on the other side, everything is owned and controlled by the government. There's no private media or publication or anything like that. So whatever is shown over here in our media or talk shows, whatever, the other side believes that this belongs to the government, so it's America's official statement. They have approved this, they have funded this, they wanted to demonize Muslims and stuff like that. That's why they become mad at America. They have not seen the other side. They have not seen the truth in the fact.
Are you still in contact with your people back in Afghanistan?
I don't have any contacts with them because the people that I knew, some of them, or a lot of them, I saved. I had brought them over here to America because they were going to be killed anyway. The rest that I could not save, pretty much they died in the wars and bombs and got killed, and it's a very sad story. So I don't have anybody there anymore that I can talk to.
Okay, but throughout the years, how have you followed what's happening over in Afghanistan or in the Middle East?
Right. What happens, and then we have people over here that they go travel and visit that place. And we also have international satellite that we watch the media from the other side. And we see what's going on, what's happening. Our media over here shows limited stuff, whatever that is okay and appropriate for our society. The rest, because of quote unquote, our national security or whatever, they don't want to show these things, but the other people, they show everything. So I see the whole picture rather than just part of it. And I know what's going on there, I know what's going on here, I know why these people think this way, which is not correct about them. I know why these people think this way about us, that's not correct either. That's why I'm trying to build a bridge and a communication so that they can really sit down and talk and understand each other.
And you're one of the persons in charge of the Islamic Center in Santa Maria?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that center is open to the public. We have publications there. There's an Islamic center here in Santa Barbara. There's in San Luis Obispo. There's in Lompoc. In every town you go, there is a mosque or Islamic center. There are publications in English and Spanish. And we do our prayers every Friday rather than, Christians go to church on Sundays. So the door is open, people come in, they talk, they answer, they see how we worship, they see what we talk about, the sermons that we gave and stuff like that. And they're really invited to come over and join us. We appreciate that.
How has September 11th and the current events affected your personal life?
It has affected me deeply. Before the September 11th, like I said, I was talking so beautifully about America and Americans and how wonderful these people are, what's going on. So everybody, my friends and my family, they had this beautiful desire to one day visit America. It was a land of milk and honey and everything for them. So when they came over here, I saved them, I brought them, they settled and they learned English and went to school and got educated, and then this September 11th happened. Our lives turned upside down.
Yeah, and you share that in your book about some of the
death threats,
experience.
and they look down upon us, they hate us. Anywhere we're hiding our identity. We cannot even. I have a business in photography, and I do not tell even people my real name because I did receive death threats. I'm also an engineer. I've worked here for 3 decades. I built this country with my engineering skills. I actually contributed big times, and I have 2 sons who are engineers, and they're really making a difference here. They're building the America. This is our country. This is our land. We went through so much hardship to come here and become citizens. We were not just born here. We're not Americans by chance. We're Americans by choice. And still, when this happened,
how did you feel about that?
I became very embarrassed, and I could not answer to my family member, the extended family, and all the people that I saved. They said, "You told us America is like this and peace."
No, how did you feel about September 11th happening?
September 11th, I'm still bitter about that. I'm shocked. You think, other people are hating the people who did this or what the event was. Us Muslims are even more abhorring that event for various reasons. Now America is our country. We live here. So number one, they attacked my country here. I escaped from one country and came to another country, and they came and did this to me. It's not they only did this to another person. I'm American too. And I took allegiance. And I swore that I will defend this country, this constitution here. That was part of my citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
Others did not do that who were born here. So I have a bigger duty to defend America. That's number one. Number two, these people defamed our religion, not other people's religion. Now Islam is under attack because of these people. All these peace-loving, good Muslims, 2 billion of them, are being looked down upon because of these evil people, these culprits. And we're being threatened and harassed because of what these people did. So
Are you still being harassed?
on daily basis.
Okay.
I've been also I go to places, I go give speeches, and I get these hate questions and stuff like that. I also, my neighbors, some of them don't still talk to me. They try to close my business. They hate us.
You wrote about that
Yeah.
in the book. Yeah.
Every day. Even I've been to courts. I had some dispute with some people, and I saw how discriminated I was against because my name was Muhammad. So that's why I call this book My Name is Mohammed, because I'm coming out and telling the world I'm not John anymore. I'm Muhammad. You like it or not, this is the way I am. This is who I am. You know, you got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So let's briefly, I don't want to make this into a religious,
I understand.
theme, but what does Islam mean, and what does it stand for?
That's a wonderful question.
To clear up.
I thank you for that.
Because I think we've spoken before and we've discussed the differences between what the terrorists
Yes.
claim to be and what
Oh,
your
yeah. No, that's
Islamic religion.
Islam itself means peace and submission. The literal translation of the word Islam is peace and submission, submission to God's will. So when people say Islamic terrorist, that's an oxymoron. How can you be peacefully submitting to God's will and still be a violent person? You can be either or. You cannot be both. So Islam and terrorism don't mix. You can either be a terrorist or a Muslim, a submissive person. You submit to God's will, you submit to God's orders and commands, and He tells you to be peaceful, loving, charitable, compassionate. And also Islam, Muslims believe in all the previous religions that came from God, including Christianity and Judaism. Muslims believe in Jesus Christ, peace be upon Him. They believe in virgin birth. They believe in Mary, peace be upon her. There are chapters
in the Bible too.
by the original Bible, everything. So when a person desecrates Quran, our holy book, they're desecrating Jesus and His message because they're all there. Muhammad, peace be upon him, came to bring back humanity from idol worshiping to God, to Jesus' message, to Moses' message, to Abraham, to Noah, to let them know that there's a superior power. He's the creator, not these little idols that we create. So, and Jesus' name is mentioned in the Quran more than Muhammad's name is mentioned.
Okay, so let me interrupt here. Just as though some religions here in the U.S., let's just take the U.S. for example, there's cults that are spin-offs of the Christian religion or
Right.
other religions, and is it the same for what's happened with the terrorists and the Muslims?
Yeah. What I believe is what the bad guys are doing, and we have them in every community.
Right.
We should not just point finger to one community or one religion or one race. We have our prison cell full of criminals and evil people here, and murderers. We have rapists. We have kidnappers. But they're by name Christians. That does not reflect on Christianity. That does not mean that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, said do these things. It's totally against his teaching and preaching. The same thing with the other people. When they go bad, when they are evil, that means they're no longer connected to the source, to the peaceful Islam. It's not because of the religion, it's because the evil within us, because it's a human nature.
Which leads me to my next question, is why is there so much hate and intolerance?
That's a beautiful question. Like I said, the hate and intolerance comes from ignorance. The educated people, the one who use their own brain, the ones who are not being led by other people, they're wonderful. Then we have some evil people, and we have some ignorant people about the rest of the world. These people, the evil ones, target these ones, recruit them, brainwash them, tell them whatever they want to do. Because these people, the other people, have no idea what else to believe in. So they're brainwashed, and you can lead them whatever way, like David Koresh did here, like Charles Manson did. People drank poison, they killed themselves because somebody told them to do so. We have them here. We have our priests that are abusing kids. There are other people that do, but that does not mean the whole Christianity is like that. You know, that's what, when we see one person from one race or one religion doing something not appropriate, we tend to generalize that for the whole country or whole race or whole religion. That's why I'm saying, go and visit that person. If a Muslim doesn't like it.
And it's also, you know, with even the black culture and the people from the you know, that are black. If we stereotype all of them, they would all be bad, or, you know. And I myself have lived in very prejudiced areas in the country, and was thrown into that mix at certain times. And so I know what that's like to be discriminated against, and to feel that injustice against you when you've not done anything wrong. So.
Yet, to really reinforce what you're saying, I was being interviewed by another TV host, Charlie Davis, who is black. And after our interview, he laughed and he said, you know, out of all this thing that all the Muslim people are under attack, one thing came good out of that. I said, what? They said, until now, all the black people were being looked down upon, and we're the whatever, you know, underdog. Now their attention is on you guys. At least we're free and we're happy. So we got, and he was laughing.
A little bit, right?
Shifted. Yeah. It seems like some human always want to find another group or another people to look down upon. From the beginning of our history here, from the Native Americans, how we treated them, to the Japanese, to the blacks, to the slavery, to all that.
Yeah.
We always find somebody to really get under control, and I think that's not a human way to treat another human being.
Okay. Let's move on to women's rights. In your book, you speak about women and how highly you regard them, and probably more so than most men do in today's society. So what is your view of women? And share with, you write on page 389, I remembered it in my head, that you write about what you feel about women and how you honor them, which is refreshing to know and hear about. So
thank you for asking that question. You know, a lot of people think that Muslims degrade women, they're being this and that. In reality, Islam teaches us how to revere women, how to put them on a pedestal, how much they do for us, especially a mother. So I learned that from my religion and also from my own experience, the epiphany that I had when I was growing up.
Well, let's start back to your birth.
You read all that, and
you had an interesting birth.
yes, I had an interesting birth. It was quote unquote, supposed to be a hush hush, a secret birth because it was in a remote location, and my dad was in the military, and we had several skirmishes there, civil war in the country, and he was called to duty, and my mom had no place to be, and she was pregnant with me. So she was allowed to stay in a really remote, uh, abandoned part of the military barracks, and that's where I was born with nobody knowing about me, no doctors, no hospitalizations, nothing, in the middle of the night with no electricity, no heat, no water, no nothing. And she cut my cord and wrapped me up and stuff like that. The world did not know about my existence until my father returned back and found out that I was born and things like that.
How many days had it been?
It was a few days, and then what happened after that, I realized how beautiful women are, what a beautiful creature they are, what a beautiful blessing to humanity they are. I mean, we usually ignore women. That's more than half of our human society. And our culture from the beginning, I mean, culture by human culture, that normally they don't look down, they look down on women. But when you look at it, even especially if you are really a religious person and read the story of Adam and Eve, peace be upon them, that when God created Adam, God would have given him any gift in the whole world: power, muscles, beauty, eternal life, anything. Out of all the things, God chose to give him the most precious gift in heaven, which was a woman. Because God, in his infinite wisdom, knew that this would be the best fitted gift to man. So when human beings, we receive a small gift from each other, we thank them, we revere them, we keep that gift so much there, and we say, oh, this is a gift from this and that, and we try to take good care of it. But what about God's gift to humanity? What a precious gift. And look at how many sacrifices women do behind the scene, how much they endure. And we're born from a woman, for goodness sake. We live inside a woman's womb for 9 months, almost a year. She's carrying us. And even when we grow up, we can't even find our socks, like I said, without calling it, the wife and say, where are my socks? But we're too afraid to say that as men. It somehow reflects on our weakness. We have to honor women. We have to appreciate them. We have to support them. We have to love them the way they deserve to be loved. They're the behind the scene people who is behind our success. If there were no women there would be no human, period. There will be no birds. We will extinguish. We'll be gone. So they're source of our existence.
How does Islam see the role of the woman in the society? We all have mixed opinions about what we get from the media and
Right.
what we know, and
Yeah.
if you've had the opportunity to travel over to the Middle Eastern countries, or
Right.
what
I know.
it's going to be different.
Yes.
However, for the person that hasn't traveled at all,
That's a great
what would
question.
you say to them?
Thank you very much for asking me that question. We believe we should separate culture from religion. Okay, one is culture and one is religion. Now, what we see or hear, whatever, it's mostly the culture of each country that has been stated in existence for thousands of years. Islam teaches us to be a good companion, a good husband, a good supporter of women. Now, I'll just give you a few simple examples because of the time limitation. When we marry a woman, a man has to give her a dowry. it's required to value her, to appreciate her.
Okay.
So, and then when she's married, in Islam, she cannot be forced to go out and work unless she wants to voluntarily do that. It's the man's duty to keep her safe, comfortable, provide for her, nurture her, support her, and protect her. Okay? It's upon the man that if anything threatens her, he is supposed to and required to give his life for protecting her. That's what Islam says, that you must die first before something happens to that.
Okay.
And whatever the woman earns in Islam, the man has no right in that. It's all her money.
Okay, so, but when we see the women on TV that are all covered and we hear
Right.
about beatings and the
Right.
way they're mistreated,
Exactly.
because it does exist.
It does exist.
What
yeah.
do you have to say in regards
That's
to
a
that?
great question. See, that's what I'm saying. That's not Islam. That's tradition. We have abused women here. We have abused women's shelter here. It's the evil within us. It's a man's world out there. Whether it's here and there, men are stronger, bigger. They do these things. That does not mean that Islam says that. Number two, covering themselves, that's their choice, because they want not to be looked as a sex object. They do not want to reveal their stuff except
It's
for
all
their
about
men.
modesty, and
It's modesty
I've seen some interviews with
the
the women.
modesty means that they're following Mary, peace be upon her, her tradition. She did not run around in bikinis. She did not run around in shorts. Even now that I go to churches, I see the clothes that they show on her. It's the same thing. Look at the nuns over here. They're wrapped up too. They cover their hair, they cover their body, they cover everything except their face and their hands. That's exactly what our women do. So when we see a nun, we run to her, we mother so-and-so, sister, we put her on a pedestal. And if another woman does the same thing, we look down upon, oh, poor you, this. And even our women are allowed to marry and have children. None are not even marrying. We don't look down upon them, oh, poor this, look at how wrapped up she is, she cannot do this, she is this. Because that's the tradition, that's the religious thing that is carried from Mary's and Sarah's and all those people. They were dressed like the Jesus Christ was being just dressed in modesty. Our preachers or whatever, when I go to churches, they wear these long robes. I see Pope all covered. He doesn't run around in shorts. So this is something about modesty and things like that. Why do we look at one person who is covered, we look up on them, and the other person doing the same thing, we look down upon them? We should not do that, I think. They should be honored for being modest and protecting themselves from bad people and not making themselves targets of rape and sex objects and this and that.
And I'm not trying to
No,
be an
feel
antagonist.
free. No.
But the women that are shrouded
Yeah.
in the cloth, there are some that are not protected. They are treated. They are mistreated. They are beaten. They are raped. They are, brutally assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that that's not your outlook. But what do you say? What do you have to say
That's
about
a good
that?
question. Like I said to you, it all comes from ignorance. It does not matter whether you're covered or not. I said in my book that women are somehow being abused around the world in different ways. Back east, due to ignorance, maybe they're beaten or restrict their freedom or doing this and that, which is a culture thing, not a religious thing. Okay? They're mistreated like that. In the Western world, they're still being mistreated. They're abandoned with children. They're being bruised. They're being killed. They're being murdered. They're still being mistreated. It's not just like over here, every woman is safe and okay.
Right.
On top of that, over here, they make women sex objects. They degrade them. Look at the pornography that's going on here for a few dollars. Look at the drug dealers, what they do to them. Look at the prostitution that's going on. A mother has to sell her life, herself, and her body to provide for children, and then she gets murdered by a criminal. How many serious killers we have? It's all women are usually targets of criminals and bad people. It doesn't matter if you're Christian or this and that. It's the evil within the society. It's not the evil within the religion. So that's the culture. That's the way people look at things. They do it because they can, not because it's said in the religion. It's not by God or anything like that. You know, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about even between father and mother, that which one you should respect and revere more. He said the mother. And he was asked again, and then who? He said the mother. And he was asked again, and then who? He said the mother. And then the fourth time he said the father. Like mother has 3 times more higher status. And he said that heaven is under the footstep of mother, not father. If you want to go to heaven, you must honor, respect, and support your mother if you really want to.
And this is in...
Exactly. It's, you know, and in the Quran it says that when your parents reach that old age, you are not even allowed to say, oh, or gosh, even this in front of them if they need anything. You know, they're old, and even that's a sin. If they ask for something, they say, oh man, I'm tired, or I can't do this. So that their little heart will not break, or they not be. You are not allowed. That's a sin that you say, yes, mother, yes, father. What can I do for you? Here it is.
You're honoring and serving
you
your
honor
family.
them. You cannot put them in nursing home. My parents lived with me, and they still live with us. Never nursing home. We really honor them big time. Our children learn from that. They honor elder, not just mother or father. Anybody who is older than you in Islam, you're supposed to be very respectful to them. You never talk back to them. Your teachers, they have the equivalent status of your parents. You never question them. You'd never, you know, in a bad way, you never talk back to them. You never make fun of them. You always respect them. You honor them. When the teacher walks in, everybody stands up. That's the society that people do not see over here. That's the 2 billion people that what they do. Not the few evil that make the news. A wonderful person like you doesn't make a news because you're not stirring any trouble here. But if you did something evil out there, and then all the cameras will be on you and say, look at that, and then the whole world will say, oh, a white Christian woman, American did it. Now it becomes the whole country like that. And that's the wrong thing.
So I read your book. And
tell me about how you feel about the book.
I loved the book. I loved what you had to say, and you've overcome tremendous adversity from the time you were born to dealing with the communists, and then you know, your life up to then was pretty good, and you were really a successful student, and you were the #1 in your class, and then you had the opportunity to come to the U.S., which is amazing, and then go back to Afghanistan, where you became an engineer, and then the communists came in, and you escaped being executed, and you wound up going to India, where you describe in the book horrific conditions. And the challenges of saving your children from being sick over and over and over again, and eventually finding your way to the U.S. and then all the things in between there. When you came to the U.S., you were penniless, and you had to rely on your host family from when you were a teenager, when you were visiting here. And I mean, it was just a very inspiring, and I found it, you've overcome more things than most people have ever endured. And you, the way you feel, your feelings, your sentiments are expressed very well throughout this book, and it made me laugh and it made me cry. And your loss of family members, and it was very touching. As I told you, you had me in tears, and when I was reading it.
Thank you so much.
If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I would be more involved in the society. I'll be speaking up more, educating people more, rather than mostly just building my own career and doing this. Because, like I said, the more people we talk to, the more humble we are, the more people's life we can touch, the more we can reach out there to those people who do not know the other side. The more bridges we can build, the better this world will be. I mean, I'm being asked all over now. I'm being on different TVs and radio stations, front pages of newspapers, going to churches. This Thursday evening, I have a presentation to live audience. People are coming, the public is invited. I talk about these things. I answer really tough questions. I should be and am going to be more involved to get rid of this hatred from all sides. Nobody is innocent. Everybody's, all the evil people, they're guilty in one way or another. It's easy to wash our own hands and say, no, it's not me, it's the other side. I never say that. I have lived half of my life in the East and half of my life in the West. I know both sides very well, and I know how each side thinks about the other side. I know why they think that way. I know how to fix that and how to build a communication. Every time I bring something up, there's a culprit stand up. Oh, but you guys are like this, and your book says like this. And I asked them, have you read the book? No. But the Sharia law says this. Have you read the Sharia? No. Have you met a Muslim? No. Have you been to an Islamic country? No. Have you been to a Muslim family? No. Have you been to Islamic? Where the heck? But so said so. I read it somewhere. I did this. And that's the poison that spreads around, and everybody says, oh, these Muslim people are evil. They're bad people.
So
they're terrorists.
You're actually educating
That's the best
the
thing
public
I can.
about,
Yes, especially
as much as you can, about
especially the young generation. The older people are normally, their mind is set there. It's very hard to change them. And whatever perception they have, they have. But I go to colleges, universities, schools. I inspire them. But thing I tell them mostly is about education first. And I tell them my story in a short way and say, you know, even though the communists took everything that I own, my house, my bank account, my car, my everything, I escaped with shirt on my back and had a family. The only thing they could not take away from me was my education. That's how I stood back on my feet and realized my American dream over here. The other thing I tell them, not to take freedom for granted, because I lost my freedom. I know how it feels when you lose your freedom.
Yeah, and you describe it to the detail in the book,
Very
which
much.
was enlightening for me, because a lot of us aren't exposed to that, being under, being under watch constantly and having everything taken away from us. Or, we are very lucky to be in the U.S.
Exactly.
And the way you described it and what you had to go against and how careful you had to be is pretty amazing.
I have endured all that, so I speak from my personal experience. And I tell people also that this is the land of opportunity. You have not lived in other countries that you're not allowed to do anything and everything you want to do. Everything is controlled by the government. All the jobs are controlled by government. They say, okay, you go here, work here. You do this. This is your salary.
And you had a few jobs like that, as you described.
Here, you can become anybody you want to. The government doesn't say anything in that. You can have 2 jobs, 3 careers, 5. Nobody cares. You can go as high as you want. The universities are there, the colleges are there. Learn, become something, become somebody. But we get too spoiled. We don't use the opportunity, especially our young generation, that they want things now, they whine, they complain, they this, because they have not been exposed to the alternative. We have comfortable life. We don't walk to school in harsh weather. We ride in cars. We have TVs. We sit on a sofa. We have refrigerator. We have electricity. We have all
Take
that.
a lot for granted.
But we expect to flip the switch and the light should come on. We expect to turn the faucet. We should have drinking water, not to go way out somewhere and carry water home and in the middle of frozen winter and stuff like that. People freeze to death on the other side of the world. The people starve to death. Mothers are selling their children or giving away their children. There's nobody to take them because nobody else can feed them either. We have not seen what's going on there. And that's what causes all this chaos, because people are hungry, people are illiterate, they're uneducated, they are out of job. 40% are jobless. So they're waiting for anybody, anything to say anything, and that incite them because they're already unhappy about life. And then if we go and bomb them indiscriminately and kill their family members, do this or degrade them, some of our soldiers do the worst thing that a human can do to another human being, and cut their bodies for trophies and keep them in our pockets and bring them home and stuff. Our media doesn't show that much, but it shows there. We kill whole families indiscriminately. A lot of good guys that do all the best work there, nobody sees that as much as somebody does something horrible and stupid there. And then the whole America, our name, our people, they look down upon us. And that's why they're waiting for some revenge to say, okay, you guys do this to us, we can do this too. It's just the human nature. Why don't we live in peace? Why don't we just respect each other's way of life and belief and still be friends? You're a wonderful human being. Look at what you're doing. And you're different than me, and physically, your hair, everything looks different than me. Your gender, that doesn't mean that we should hate each other. Look at what a beautiful conversation we have with each other.
I agree, and that's why education is key. So remember, thank you for being here today. Remember, when life gets you down, you hold the power to keep rising above it. I'd like to thank you for being here today, Mohammad, and thank you for sharing your